Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to Ken's Questions. Of course, I'm Ken, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for checking me out. Otherwise, if you're coming back, thanks for coming back. So, of course, y'all know I always come with the questions. And of course, sometimes they're hot and spicy, but this one ain't gonna be hot and spicy. I'll go ahead and give y'all that warning. Because when I have somebody that is family, absolute family next to me, then I like to have a different show. So, of course, got to shout out Hits, Cuts, and Bruises, my other podcasts, Spanky, Timo, love you guys. But, of course, like I said, this is Ken's Questions, and welcome. So I'll have the person next to me introduce himself, and let's start.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure being here. My name is Amiri Farris, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist and pretty much been an artist all my life. And
So for the GED section, what's a multidisciplinary artist?
so multidisciplinary artist means that I use different materials and I do other things besides just painting. So I might do poetry, music, dance. I've always kind of been involved in, different realms of art. And a lot of people say I'm a Renaissance type artist.
I agree with that.
But I would say my forte is visual art.
Okay. So, of course, we're in a studio now. It's a lot of artwork that we're looking at around us. And, but that's what's now. So let's kind of go back. Let's get some history.
Okay.
What got you started in art?
So again, I would say I pretty much have been an artist all my life. I know back in West Palm Beach, we didn't have art in school. So my parents put me in like a after school program at the Amiri Art Center. So there I was, taking adult classes and taking, drawing and painting, and we'd be doing like nudes and, different things. So that kind of really started my professional art journey.
How old were you drawing naked people?
I think I was probably 7 or 8.
Okay.
And so I just remember the people in the class were just like, he was very professional. And a lot of times like my drawings would be, better than some of the people, the adults in there, the older people. So they thought that was cool.
Is this memory correct that you sent in the commercial on TV that it's like, hey, draw this, and then you send it in and then they rate it? Did that happen?
Oh,
do I remember that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, so
we had to do like the bear.
Yes.
Something out of the comic book. Yeah, because usually, back then they would have it in magazines and different children's books and things like that.
So you were successful. Was there ever a time where you felt like, okay, I can't make this into something that I really want to be when I grow up?
I don't think so. I think I always kind of knew, that I wanted to be an artist and that I was a creative person. There was never, really any doubt. Just something that I was always good at, or just something, that I knew.
What made, well, I guess you could say, yes, of course you could say, I want to do this when I grow up, but what was the point where you say, what, I can make a living at this?
Probably, and I don't know if you remember this, when I started doing the jeans. So
yes.
It was like Belle Biv DeVoe
yes.
back in the 90s. Yes. They came out with that. And so I started drawing, on jeans and kind of started a business in that. And I've made, a lot of money, I think, over the past 2 summers, doing that. So I was like, oh, okay, this is like, this is cool. People just gave me their jeans and I would, draw on it and, give it back to them. And then also I think I started doing like prints for playbills. So I worked a lot with Quest Theater in West Palm Beach. So I would design, their sets and their playbills and things like that. So I also got, paid to do that.
That's incredible.
Oh.
So let's say even back then, it's like, okay, now I can actually do this. And let's say, for example, what was the turning point? Because I know, of course, you attended art school. What school was that for our audience?
So in high school, I actually attended the New World School of the Arts. So I would go down there like on weekends and summer programs and things like that. And then I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design. So I received my undergraduate in illustration and my master's in painting. So I just went kind of straight through both, undergraduate and a master's.
So with all that success, I would say that's early. To me, that's success. That's completely early. Did you, like you said, you went straight through? Were there any challenges?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say there were a lot of challenges. Going through college, I would say that a lot of times some of the professors didn't, want me there. And another thing that happens a lot is since I'm so successful and it's easy for me to create art, I think that creates a lot of jealousy in a lot of older people, or and then also I like to use this term called narples. So those are non-art people. So those people are always trying to like squash your dreams and they don't want you to be creative. I'm like, oh, they're such a narple. Because I'm always trying to think out of the box and do something differently. And they're like, why are you always trying to, do that, do something different and unique? And, that's just kind of how I am.
I like that word.
Because I'm sure you deal with a lot of narples too.
I do. Yes, every single day. But even with that, of course, you've met my son. And the last time we were here, you took us on this wonderful tour. He loves art. And of course, the same way your parents fed into you, the way I figured was, hey, this kid really wants to look at it. He not in the media aspect of it as far as creating art, but he wants to go to as many art museums. And I was like, well, if
galleries and things.
We I think we've probably been to about 30, between New York and DC and South Florida. I just pick a spot, like, hey man, let's go.
Yeah.
And when I'm watching him as he's looking at these different forms of art, and of course he has his own opinion, the way it makes him feel. As you're creating this art, are you doing it for the purpose of someone's going to look at this and they're going to feel this way? Or is it just everyone has their own feeling about your art?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I would say earlier it was more about the aesthetic quality of me trying to prove to someone that I could draw.
Okay.
Like you were saying, kind of draw that character, that bear or that pirate person, because when you're sharing something with someone and it's art, you want them to see that you have that talent.
Yes.
And then after I've gotten good at drawing and painting and kind of mastering all the different art forms, then I started going to more about what am I saying? What I want the world to see
what do you want
in
to
my
convey?
artwork. And I think that's the difference between a contemporary artist and someone that does artists, more as a craft or a hobby.
Right.
Because they have a story to tell and they want to share, their life or their experiences through art.
I guess that definitely makes a big difference as well. Because as you get older, then you hone your craft.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, I did this. Whatever your opinion is your opinion.
Exactly.
And
I ain't worried about it
right.
anymore. If you don't think I can draw, then I know I can draw. If you don't think I could paint,
I've finally gotten down to the 0 fucks given. So
yeah.
Like, I was at 50, now I'm down to 0. So
Exactly.
I think that's when you get to the point where no matter what, I'm good. Because when you accept that you're good, then other people going really and truly, because that confidence goes a long way.
Yeah.
Those are things that I hope everyone gets to that status, but you're there. You have proof all around us, even with this backdrop. This is proof that you can, you don't have to be handheld. You don't have to be, worried about what somebody else has to think about it, because you're in your own world.
Exactly. And then also try to tell people, because I deal with this a lot with a diva artists, that even though you might be successful and you might have mastered the different things, you still, need to learn and communicate, from different people, or get inspiration, I think, from the world around you. So you never think you're, that good. There's always something to learn,
So let's say, for example, who was your cheerleader? Who was the one that said, no matter what, I'm proud of you? And, that drive, because we got to have some type of drive.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, my mom, she would always, be there for me. She'd be there taking me all the classes. When we go to different places, they'd be like, you know what, he's still trying to do that art thing. He'd be like, yeah, he's gonna make it. He's sending to school. He's gonna, people are like, oh, I don't know, like, how's he gonna make money and doing all this stuff? She's like, don't worry about it. We got him. He's gonna do it. So, she was just always, there for me, and always pushing me and everything.
I love to hear that. Miss your mom. I definitely miss your mom.
Yeah.
But of course, she's over us right now. So that those are things that I always say. Some of the questions that I might ask, I might know the answer to, but I want to hear your answer.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna have my own opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad we have the same feeling. Now, artwork. They say any successful artist, it comes from pain. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah.
And I still say, a lot of comedians, it comes from pain. Sometimes actors, it comes from pain, because you can only really get this character that you're playing from some place. And if they're, like we say, oh, you got to cry on cue. And they say, well, I got to think about something that happened really bad in my life, and it's like, tear, like, oh, So with that, and I see all these beautiful, bright, vibrant colors. That's the opposite of pain to me.
Yeah.
So how does that even interject? How does that come about?
So that's a good question. I think there is so much unhappiness and kind of disconnection in the world today. So in my artwork, I try to do the opposite of that, because I see so much dark artwork where someone's like focused on slavery or focused on something, and of course they have that story to tell.
Of course.
But I notice with my artwork, I want to see people uplifted.
Okay.
And so that's the whole thing about using, bright colors and different imagery, like a lot of birds, flora and fauna, and people, dancing and celebrating life. I think we don't do that enough. I think we focus so much on pain and trauma that, again, I want my artwork to almost be the opposite of that. And I might one day go into more, darker things, or things that are more personal that happened to me in my life. But right now, that's kind of what I'm focused on in my artwork.
Do you find it's still uplifting for you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And so that's another thing too, just being able to be a creative person. As you were talking about before, I think a lot of people didn't expect me to be, this successful as an artist. So I really take that, not personally, but I really try to celebrate that.
Of course.
And just be happy that I'm able to create paintings and, do talks like we're doing now, or, go to different museums and, have an artist talk or show my work. So, I think that's important.
That's super important. Well, you're very humble, of course. Because I'm going to talk my shit, because all of y'all that doubted me and all of y'all just like, oh, he's not going to be successful. It's not going to work. But what would you say with that is your personal highest success? You have so many. Y'all look them up too. I don't. There's a lot of people that end up on my show, and it's like, well, why are they on the show? This is a genuine superstar. Y'all don't understand. Once you look them up, if you're not already following Amiri, please do. because I'm talking about phenomenal artwork, not just stuff that I like, obviously, because, that's why I asked that question. What do you think is your highest success so far?
So I would say just being able to show in different museums and be in that gallery space. As I know a lot of people like the artwork that I created for the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You were just in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that's in the stadium there, and I did a soccer piece. I was recently featured artist at MUSC Charleston. So I really like the work that I did there and the exhibit that I created, since it's in a public space. And also it's kind of different than a gallery setting, because the people that see the artwork there are, people that wouldn't go into that gallery space or that museum space. And then again, it's something uplifting. Hospitals can be very dreary and very institutional looking places.
Cold.
So
besides the temperature,
Exactly. And so I've gotten so many, emails from people that said, how uplifting the artwork is there, and, how it kind of changed their whole outlook of their day or their experience there. And then I recently did a collection at Montage Palmetto Bluff, which is here in Bluffton. And that's my Gullah Geechee Indigo series. And
now,
again,
I'm gonna pause you with that. Okay, so once again, for those who do not know even what Gullah Geechee is, they might have never even heard that term before. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so the Gullah Geechee, the term refers to the people that lived here in South Carolina, and the Gullah Geechee corridor runs from North Carolina down to Florida. They were able to keep their African traditions because they grew up on barrier islands. So those traditions, which would be linguistics, language, foodways, so they were able to keep those food traditions from Africa, and then also different artistry. So I know a lot of people have seen the sweetgrass baskets when you go to Charleston or different areas. So that tradition actually came from Africa and then was developed more in South Carolina. So for instance, with the sweetgrass basket, that was a more utilitarian thing. So, people use that to carry their food around or carry different grains or even water. Some of the baskets are so tight that you can actually hold water in.
Wow.
And then later it kind of became more of an art form, I guess, and not used so much for utilitarian, like work purposes. But yeah, that's a little bit about, the Gullah Geechee people. And so one of the terms is we like to use here, Benye or Kamye.
Okay.
So if you're a Benye, then you've been here on the island, but there's a lot of Kamyes that, come here from other places. So a lot of people, even though I'm a Kamye, they say, oh, you Benye. Amiri Benye, you know all that Gullah Geechee stuff. You know what he's doing.
So even, we grew up in South Florida, I've never seen, that part of that culture in South Florida. What got you into it? What introduced you to it?
But you did see it, but you just didn't know it.
Ah, okay.
So there's a lot of, Gullah Geechee people, and us that are from South Florida, we know those people that had that certain dialect, and they were very, I'd say country, and they kind of held those traditions, but I think down there it would always been them people. What they, they doing something different, and they be into rude and different things.
Yeah.
And so they were just very different. But I think Gullah Geechee is kind of a newer term that developed, I would say, in the 80s and early 90s, and then so now there's a lot more research being done about it.
I'm a fan of the Breakfast Club. And of course, Charlemagne always talking about Geechee this, Geechee that, Geechee that. And of course, he has a dialect because he's from South Carolina. So when you see things like that he is now even exposed more to the culture, do you find people trying to basically kind of seeking you out for either history lessons or access to, that type of culture?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think basically we were all from, this area, either South Carolina or Georgia, because that's where, we kind of came from, when we came over from Africa. So everything is kind of traced from here, all over the United States. So those people that, might have went up north, like my family did during the Industrial Revolution and the migration up to north, it's almost like a reverse migration now. So all those people are coming back down to the south.
Because it's cold.
And so, yeah, exactly. I can't deal with it. That cold weather. But then also, as people are coming back, they want to learn more about their history.
Yeah.
And, as you look back into your family history again, you can kind of find those traces. And then you're like, oh, okay, my family was from, South Carolina or from Georgia. And then, you find those family names and you start to put stuff together. And then you're like, oh, okay. And so that's kind of what I did. I know my grandmother talked about, being Gullah Geechee, but I didn't really experience it until I moved here. And it was kind of funny when I did. I was just kind of pulled into everything like Gullah Geechee, and just so much information was like shared with me, and it was kind of very, I wouldn't say strange, but it was very unique experience.
Probably like a full circle.
Exactly.
It's like that was probably your connection with your grandmother. And that's probably where that came from, like indirectly. It's like, oh, wait a second, I'm drawn to this some kind of way.
Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure that's where that came from too.
Yeah, where it just felt very natural, where other things you're trying to learn about, wasn't as natural, but that was just very organic.
Right. Do you ever have, like you said, those, what's the term again? The
narples.
Narples, yes. So do you have, I'm pretty sure I see beauty. And, I've always loved your artwork. But that's me. This messy. You ever have this just so messy. It's all over the place. And I don't understand it and why you do that.
Yeah.
When you have those people, do you explain to them? So if I have somebody that just looking at this beautiful piece and they just see just a big glob of mess, how would you explain it to them? Or would you?
Yeah.
Or you just say, okay.
Yeah, it would depend on their spirit, I would say.
Okay.
So, as you know, my mom being a teacher, and then
yes.
I being a teacher, I always want to teach people about something. So if they're open to the experience, I'll explain it to them more. So for instance, if we're looking at the painting behind me, there's a lot of drips in the painting, and I do that to show time passing on the canvas. And then also talk about renewal of water and nature and different things. So then once I explain that there's a deeper meaning, and there's always a deeper meaning in my paintings, I think people kind of open up and then they want to know more.
Yeah.
Rather than like, you put that drip in there. And so one of the things which I started doing the drips more is I actually won an art competition, but then the judge came up to me afterwards and he's like, oh, you had this rip and this drip in here. You need to work on that. And then I was like, what? Like, I'll show you. Like,
I love
so then I just got better, at controlling drips. And then I just started doing it more.
Yeah.
Because I think it was like a portrait that I was working on. Of course, if someone sees a portrait, they want it to be, again, very perfect. And again,
of course.
It's all about making it look like a photograph. But then as I'm developing as an artist, I want to have something that's representational, which means you could recognize what it is, but then also be abstract or non-objective.
Right.
So it has those three elements to it. So you can look at this painting and be like, oh, there's a face in there, but then there's a lot of abstract elements that you're like, oh, I don't know exactly what that is, but then you as the viewer can make your own determination of what it is.
So even kind of piggybacking on what you're saying as far as the individual being able to formulate their own opinions about your work, what do you think about, because of course you're a teacher, and you already said it. You said growing up, we didn't have art. I took art classes because I was interested in art. But the vast majority of school systems, there's no art, no art program.
Yeah.
And so I'm amazed that schools like SCAD and, you have a place to actually go and learn more about the art form that you do. Is there, do you think there is a way that this can then come back? Is it a possibility? Because for the most part, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I would say, and that's one of the reasons I decided to be a teacher, and I still do that, because I don't think there's enough people out there that are good at it. Too, I've had a lot of bad art teachers, and I was like, oh, I definitely don't want to be that, or don't want to be again that kind of the diva attitude, or they don't want to share their skills and knowledge because they think you're going to be better than them, when it's actually the opposite. The more that you share, the more that person's going to share with you, and it's kind of like you're giving each other that knowledge, but yeah.
So let's say, for example, even kind of jumping on the fact that you did decide to become a teacher. Of course, you got that from your mama. I already know that part. But when you see that student and you see that, I don't think, because of the age group you deal with, that light bulb doesn't go off. The light bulb's usually already on.
Yeah.
I taught second grade when I did teach, so I saw a lot of little light bulbs. And so I think I would say in your case, is it harder to inspire students that have already started art? They already have probably what they want to do. They might be looking at you like the same way you had a professor, not that you're a bad professor, but the same way you've had some professors that, basically suck.
Yeah.
How do you inspire someone that's already doing what you do? Yeah,
I would say because the way that I'm creating my artwork is just so different, and then being an African American male, an artist, a lot of people don't see that.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of us, in galleries, and then also in that teaching setting.
Yeah.
So I have a totally different experience than a lot of other people, and so I just use that to inspire them, and then also a lot of times, since I have a younger mindset, I'm into comic books and manga, and I actually worked at different comic book companies when I first graduated. So I have that like graphic illustration side, and then I have like that fine art side. So a lot of people that are into that, I'll be like, oh yeah, I watch My Hero Academia, or I watch Dragon Ball Z, and they're drawing that in their sketchbook. And they're like, oh, that, but I'm like, not everything has to be an anime character.
No.
Why don't we try to make it look more realistic, or make it more in your style? What's your individual style? Because each of us have our own way of seeing the world and depicting the world in our sketchbook, or the way that we create artwork. So that's one of the things I try to bring out of people. What's your individual style? Because each of us has our own ways of doing something.
So of course you're an absolute triple threat, dancing, artist, and of course I've seen your shows where you got a whole entire room full of people and they're watching you create this live art. How nervous are you doing that? Are you nervous?
Well, actually, no. I would say I actually get more nervous, in a classroom setting than that when I'm like doing my action painting. It's just totally me and just being creative, and I totally like block off what I'm doing. And I'd say the same thing when I'm painting. Like I kind of go into a zone, and I'm just there doing it, and I don't even realize that there's people there. So it's kind of like my total essence or like in the zone,
Yeah.
you're playing sports or different things that that you don't even realize that. So no, yeah, I don't get nervous at all.
Have you ever been commissioned to do a painting and you had to have it done by next week?
Oh yeah, I mean that happens like all the time.
That's what I was like. Can you rush creativity? Can you put
Yeah.
that's I guess that's kind of putting like, okay, I'm a project manager. I gotta have this done. Next Tuesday. So I guess you kind of had that way to
Well,
do
I'd
it.
say if the price tag is right, we get it done. But if you want me to do a painting, you got $10 or something up, you got to go on the waiting list. I don't never tell people no,
Right.
but, it's all about, we got bills to pay and everything. So,
Absolutely.
which happened, I would say like probably the past 2 months that has happened. Somebody wanted something and they had to have it in a certain time period. So I had to like stop all of the other projects and kind of focus on that.
Do they ever give you ones like, okay, I want this painting of my wife in your style?
Yeah, and I would say I try not to do so much of that. I've gotten to a point where I can say no now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I wouldn't say I was never a starving artist, but you get to the point where like, oh, definitely need that money or whatever. But now I can kind of pick and choose of different projects I want to work on, which is nice.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So you said it, starving artists. And of course, that is the theme for the vast majority of artists. And with you actually being successful at it, do you have, I guess you can say, not backlash, not necessarily jealousy, but do you have individuals that say it's not fair that you were able to, crack the code?
Oh yeah, and I just tell them like, don't be worried about me. Just you need to work on your own stuff. You need to get better at what you're doing. You can do the same thing. And anybody, they're always like, oh, so and so doing this because they worked hard at it. Just like you doing this now, you working hard at it. You traveling all around the country and doing things. And those other people are at home, watching TV. Doing nothing. So if you want to get better at something, you just, you got to put in the time, the work. And, it'll happen. The universe will make it happen if you're serious about it.
You are so correct.
So I've always, been serious about it. And, I just tell those people, if you're jealous or, again, if you want to make it, just focus on your stuff.
I like that. I like that answer. Because it makes so much sense. You're always, I was always told, this came from my mama, if you don't have haters, you're not doing it right.
Exactly.
And, that those individuals kind of help you refocus.
Exactly.
Especially when you hear a negative comment or you hear something,
because it actually makes you work harder.
Yes, that's why I say your work is so. I guess the art world in general, what brings to me immediately is the banana that sold for what, it was like $1 million, something like that.
Yeah,
somebody put a banana
Art
peel,
Basel. With the duct tape.
Yes, and I'm like, wait a second, but it's subjective.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think about artwork like that?
Well, I mean, as you know, there's a lot of bad artwork out there, and that was probably more of a conceptual piece rather than like a painting or something. So that's one thing that people have to understand. There's so many different forms of artwork out there, and so people like to put it in a box and just say it's all the same. But again, I think when you see good artwork, an artwork that moves you and tells a story or has a strong conceptual idea, and then when it's like, oh wait, no, they scamming us. And I think that was one of the things, like, there's a lot of
I think that was a
scamming.
scam.
Yeah, and I think people like to take advantage of artists and creative people too. There are a lot of scams out there, so just be smart about things, and you don't have to like everything. You don't have to understand everything, but again, when you see something you like, you just like it. Just like dogs playing poker. People like that.
It's in many houses.
Exactly.
Many a house.
Yeah.
Tacky houses, but there's in many houses.
Yeah, and it might not be accepted on like the greater art form, but again, you like what you like.
It's there. That's a good example. What I want to address next is, let's say for example, you settled here. I just moved back home not too long ago. And as far as you're making a huge difference in this community with murals everywhere, just being a positive influence in the community, an incredible representation of Black beauty. That's, I like to give flowers now. The traditional artist doesn't get famous until they're not here anymore. And what do you think about that? Because you're breaking that mold, of course.
Yeah, I would say this day and age, because of social media and because of crowdfunding and different things, that you can be successful as an artist now, and you don't have to be in New York or be in California, where back in the 80s and 90s you would have to move those different locations to work for a company or try to get with an art dealer or different things like that. But now, again, all you have to do is make the work and put it online. So that's a lot different, and we're seeing so many people be successful now.
Right.
Where again, it's kind of breaking that mold or breaking out of the box of that starving artist. And so I would say with me that I'm just very grateful that I'm able to share my talents and do murals or do action painting or do my fine art show in different galleries and museums, and people are very drawn to it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just so grateful for that, because I can't tell you how many times people say that, or they still say that, like, oh, one day when you're gonna be famous, but after you gone, and stuff,
like, that
have your
sucks.
stuff. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, actually, if you appraise that or check out that stuff, it might be worth something now. And then people, they see that, they see, what my other paintings have sold for, what they're selling for now, and then they're like, oh, okay. Like, you a real artist, huh? Yeah, that's what I said when you told me the first time, but then,
that brings me back to the song "The Vapors" by Biz Markie. It's like, oh, you a star now. But that's what you experienced, and that's why I would say I'm so proud. And it's if those who've been watching the show for a while, I have a lot of famous friends, and that they all come from the West Palm Beach area, Riviera Beach, West Palm, and I was just blessed to be around an incredible group of people who ended up, affecting many lives. And so,
and I have a story to tell that we're talking about famous people, and I thought about that. I was watching Rick and Morty, and they played the Splat Pack song at the end of that, and all I could just see you and Keith were just like in the group from there. And I'm like, it's on Rick and Morty.
On Rick and Morty, yes.
It went from our little West Palm Beach, Riviera Beach.
Yes. So that
area.
That was the concert that I was at last night, an award show. So definitely shout out to James, Kwame.
Yeah, DJ.
Yes. And of course, unfortunately, Kid Money's not here anymore. Rest in peace to him. But yeah, they got Icon Lifetime Achievement Award
Oh, wow.
last night, so that's why I was there.
Oh, wow.
And so yeah, like you said, Rick and Morty, you just turn on all of a sudden, shake that ass, bitch, let me see what you got. And you know that clip.
The dance.
Yeah, if you look up that clip has millions of views. Just the clip.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I was talking about his sister. His sister was famous as well. So shout out Toya, freaking red. So we have this incredible group of people that came out of Palm Beach, and if you look at the statistics in our area, you're not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be doing this. You know, dead or in jail.
Yeah.
You know, and that's so unfortunate, and that's why I want to bring shows like yours, and I want to expose people. Your art, it's not nothing new to me. It shouldn't be new to nobody else. You know, especially being, and that's what I go to as far as. Have you ever been asked to go back home to showcase any of your artwork?
No, I mean, not yet. I'm probably working on trying to have a show at the Telfair, or not Telfair, excuse me, the Norton Museum of Art in West Palm Beach. So I'm working on that and maybe do an artist in residence there. But no, I don't think I've had any show. I think the last show that I had was at the Kravis Center. But that was, you know, back in the
Like when
the
it first
90s.
opened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
I know. But one of the things you were talking about, West Palm Beach, even though, you know, I enjoy living there, something just told me, you know, I had to leave to not only be successful, but just so many of our friends, you know, they were either in jail or, you know, doing something, always getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that was one of the things where just like, you know, I can't be another statistic.
I hate that word because I can never say it.
Or just, you know, I just didn't want to do, you know, the same old thing.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, I'd love to come back and have an exhibit and share my work with
You deserve
everyone
it.
down
Y'all
there.
call Amiri. Y'all stop playing with this man. You know, it's like he done came to a whole nother state, whole nother city, and made this incredible impact on this area. And I don't think it's fair. That's just me personally. You know, it's like that's not fair. You know, but of course we can't control, you know, what the powers that be.
And I think things, you know, happen when they're supposed to.
Right.
So, you know, just be patient and
I like that. So many.
let things.
So positive. You know, so positive. I love it. It just brings chills. Brings chills. So now I have, with you being a teacher, of course, there is a little, I call it the elephant in the room, AI. And, you know, its effect on art, its effect on, you know, what's real, what's not. And when you can just, okay, I want a painting of a woman with gold stripes and drips coming down, and I need you to make it for me and snap.
Yeah.
How does that affect you? How do you feel about that?
Oh, I love it.
Oh, wow. Not the answer I expected, but go ahead.
Yeah, 'cause it's just another tool like Photoshop and you know all the other technology that we have. Even though you can, you know, say that like I want a unicorn playing basketball and pink background with glitter, you can get that, but it's still in the AI world. It's still in that realm. How are you going to get it into the real world?
Right.
So you still need an artist or
What if they got a robot
else
with a paintbrush?
Yeah. But then still, if you even see that, you can still tell that it's AI. It doesn't have that true artist hand. I think, you know, some people, it might fool them. But again, I think it's still not there yet.
Right.
So I think it's just a tool that, and the reason that I love it is because I'll use that for a reference, you know, for my painting. So instead of spending hours sketching and working in Photoshop, I can very quickly get an idea and then use that for the basis of a painting. So it allows me to work even quicker than
Think about it like that. Use it. Let it use. You use it. Don't let it use you.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and then people are, oh, it's gonna take my job, and do this and that, and
Right.
again, since you do video, it's just so much quicker because now it can go in and edit for you, or you can make adjustments to your video, which again would have taken you hours to sit on the computer and
Which
do that.
I have not. I've fought it. I fought it tooth and nail.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, he edits the Hits Cousin Bruises show for me. Of course, I don't do any editing on this show, but I'm really wrestling with it because you're right. The time. Oh,
Yeah.
the time is totally. It's the bane of my existence because even the little bit of editing that I do, I edit my shorts. So those I edit.
Yeah.
And it's hundreds, if not thousands of shorts that I have to edit. And it's minor things, but those minor things are very tedious, and that's why I don't like it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, why can't this just, I need to have I guess I'm gonna look at it. I ain't saying I'm gonna jump into
and just
it.
be
but
like, hey AI, here's the clips.
you have
edit
any,
this for me.
You have
and
any
bam,
ideas
it's done.
of programs to use that helps with that?
Yeah, I can't think of the names right now, but there's a lot of ones for video. And then for the fine art side, I like to use Adobe, not Firefox, but I can't think of the name right now. Adobe Fire something, but it'll come to me.
Okay.
But again, yeah, that one's a really good one because you can just put in those different keywords, and then you get what you're looking for.
Okay. I might need that for my thumbnails or something. Usually I just put a picture.
But again, you can just say, get your clips together and be like, type in what you want, in video, and then bam, 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 and it all like puts it together.
Maybe I'll experiment with this one. This might be my first edit with AI.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Because I honestly thought you were gonna say something different. You've convinced me as someone who's in the art world permanently. I guess I need to stop fighting.
But at the same time,
you were right, LeVar. You were right. I'm just letting him.
But at the same time, it is kind of scary sometimes. It's almost like ghosting the AI. Like you put in something, and like this image will come up, and you're like, "What? I didn't even put in the thing. Like, how did you know that?" Or it'll be like a face looking this way, and then you put it again. It's like looking right at you. You're like, "Oh wait, I'm done for the day."
I saw a meme the other day. It was a picture of John Connor as a boy in the Terminator, and it said John Connor looking at y'all helping AI. I was like, yes, that's it. The Terminator was right. I hope not. But yeah, that's a very interesting take on that. I never thought of it as a tool. I thought of it as a hindrance. I thought of it as a way to dumb down your brain and kind of stifle creativity. But when you put it that way, I like the way you put that. Because even the titles of my videos, the titles of mine are straightforward. It's like, hey, join me for a sit down with Amiri Farris. Versus on Hits, Cuts, and Bruises, we have to have specific titles to grab people's attention to click on that video.
Yeah.
And it comes from my brain, and that's what But now I'm like, let me go back and retitle these, but I might use it. I don't know. I'm still torn. On my ride home, I'll think about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but again, if you use it again, just like, try to think of it like an actual tool, that you have like a hammer or like screwdriver, how it'll help you quickly, get in something like a drill, You know, instead of like sitting there, just use drill very quickly. So that's how I see it. But then, again, you know, I don't want people to use it for everything. I think we still need to use our brains and our creativity and, you know, our artists and our creative people to do things. So those people that are in advertisement, you know, you still need that artist to get it out into the real world.
Right. No matter
because
what.
Because it's still in that AI world.
You kind of warm me. I'll text you. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated. So let's say, for example, I've seen you do collaborations with Volvo. I've seen you do collaborations with Adidas. Any collaborations you got coming up that you can actually talk about, or is it all secrets?
Let's see. Do I have any collaborations coming up? I know I've done so much. I think now I've just been doing a lot of artist in residence. So right now I'm an artist in residence at UGA and Penn Center, which is the first school for freed slaves here in Beaufort and St. Helena Island. Wow. So I have a touring exhibit coming up, and then the exhibit that I have now is actually up at Penn Center. But yeah, I'm working with some different companies on a couple different projects right now. I would say I probably can't say, but I'd heard to give you.
What I say is that I want you to, you know, just say, if it's private, let it stay private. But I just know you always are being commissioned to do different pieces, and I'm always impressed. Like, let's say, for example, even the one you did with Adidas. What happens with that? Does it just go to, you know, is it on display in their campus, you know, in Germany or something?
Yeah, so that was a project I did with Stan Smith shoes, and I didn't realize, you being a shoe person, I remember that from a kid. I was never really into it so much, but just so many people were excited over that project, and I just didn't realize how big sneaker culture was, and still I started doing that. And so I did a couple of like one-of-a-kind design shoes, and I know like Spike Lee liked one of the shoes that I did, and so different things like that. But I would say it just kind of goes, lives on through, you know, different advertisements and, you know, things that of course are like on social media, and then the different shoes that I did for that project. I think Stan Smith actually has the shoes that I designed. Wow. So that was a collaboration between Volvo, him and Adidas.
Man. See? Told y'all he was famous. Told y'all.
Yeah.
So any doubters out there, you know.
Actually, I think I have one of the prints over there. I'm going to go grab it real quick so you can see it. That we had from that project. I see it hanging right here. So this was kind of like one of the sketches that I did of the shoe. Hopefully one day I'm gonna make it so you can see the drips on the shoe. And so that's kind of what I want the shoe to look like. There's like Stan Smith in there, and I think this piece was actually signed by him.
Oh, that's so dope. Especially with the little images of Stan Smith all over it. Man.
So that was one of the concept pieces that I did.
See? I have no words. I don't know if you heard that alarm.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that alarm. So, you know.
It's time to go. Already? Oh. We'll definitely have to do it again.
Of course. So these are things that, you know, so let's say, for example, next time, like I always discuss my shows with my guests before we have it. And I could have done, hey, behind the scenes, this was going on in the gallery. I didn't want that for this episode. This is our first time being able to sit down, basically lifelong friends. Well, it's been what you would think 6 or 7, or even probably even longer than that. When y'all moved down, I don't know how old you were.
I was probably like 4.
Well, 5. as far as my memory, how about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably we were probably friends since like 6.
Yeah. So
that I remember, yeah.
But these are the people that I want to bring y'all. These are questions that I have. Every once in a while, of course, I ask. Well, most of the time, I ask y'all for y'all questions. But these are questions that I had. It's even as somebody that I know we're not in the same city, we're not in the same town. We see each other, in visitation, in passing. But I have these questions, and I'm glad you was able to answer for me.
Oh, of course. And I will say that maybe you have some time, you can come up to my next exhibit, which is going to be either in Athens or Atlanta.
Okay.
And then maybe that time we can do like a walkthrough of the artwork, and you can do an update.
You got that right. I definitely appreciate that. So would you like in closing, would you like to say something to my audience?
Oh, I would just say it was nice seeing everybody, and if anybody has any questions, you can just check out my website or do some question and answer it on the online, and
on the
reach
comments
out
below.
to you, on the comments, and then just check out my work.
Love it. So once again, thanks again for joining us for this episode of Ken's Questions. Amiri, Farris, love you, baby. You
Love you too.
lifelong friend here. So these are things that I want to continue to bring y'all. Of course, like, comment, subscribe. I will be doing a Patreon, so that's coming next. If you want to support what I do travel a lot. I wish it was free, but it is not. So that is coming. And y'all have a good night and good evening.